Guys, Comic Boom here to review Justice League issue 14. I know I'm a little bit behind in this review, but I've got to add to the story here, guys, because this story keeps getting, dare I say, it seems to be getting more confusing as we move along. Unfortunately, Scott Snyder and James Tynion in the fourth they write this issue. It's drawn beautifully by the artists here are fantastic. This particular issue, Jim Cheung and Stefan Segovia do the pencils. Mark Morales and Segovia do the inks. Tomu Murray and Will Quintana do the colors. And Tom Napolitano does the letters. And again, just a really great, really beautifully drawn issue. A little bit confusing in terms of the narrative so far, but I'm going to try to dumb it down for myself in a way that I think I understand it, but you guys can add to it in the comments below if you think I missed something. But basically, it starts off with the Trinity here. They're basically working on Will Payton. Now, he's the Starman. Now, we know from previous issues that back in the 80s, Lex Luthor's father, Lionel, was fascinated by Starman because he was the first to discover that the Starman, that Will Payton, had some sort of connection to a strange energy that was ultimately a replication of the same energy that exists behind the source wall. And this issue starts off with Batman knowing that somehow Lex Luthor knows this. He's trying to figure out, what is it about Starman that why was Luthor's themselves so fascinated with Starman? And Batman is very unwisely trying to connect through Jarro, basically the Starro boy creature Jarro that they call him because he fits in a jar. They're trying to connect with through Jarro to Starman to try to figure out what the connection is. What's the connection between Kendra Saunders' wings? Kendra's wings seem to be made of an nth metal that seem to give her a connection to the source. There's also some beings behind the source wall, the energies themselves. There's also that queen that is controlling all of it, that's trapped in the totality. That particular person called Perpetua. Batman's trying to discover the secrets and learn all the stuff that we already know as readers. So it's a little bit frustrating here. We as readers already know some of the answers to this, that the characters themselves, that the Trinity, that the Justice League still doesn't know, and we're already at issue 14, but we readers seem to know more than the players here. And in a way that kind of irritates me a little bit. You know, I hope they kind of figure things out and move along a little faster here. In any event, while the Trinity is trying to figure out this information from Starman, and not doing a particularly good job, in fact, they're failing at it quite miserably, Hawkgirl, Martian Manhunter, Green Lantern, and the Flash, they're on Thanagar Prime. Now, here's where the artists of this issue really get to shine. I mean, Jim Cheung and Stefan Segovia, their pencils really shine. The drawing of Thanagar Prime is beautiful. Thanagar Prime actually has, it almost like it's surrounded by, instead of, you know, with Saturn, you have Saturn's rings. Well, Thanagar Prime seems to be surrounded literally by wings. Wings that help the planet phase in and out of time-space almost, so that Thanagar Prime can apparently exist in multiple points in space. So it's very interesting. I'm not sure how they found it. How do you find a planet that can phase in and out of space like that? But in any event, it's very interesting. It's very cool as well. Now, Thanagar Prime in Hawkman lore that's where the Thanagarians are, and that's in DC mythology. That's where Hawkman basically is from. Hawkman and Hawkgirl are originally from Thanagar, or at least in one of their incarnations. Now, what we discovered here is Kendra Saunders, who is Hawkgirl, runs into, on Thanagar Prime, Shara Hall, who is also Hawkgirl. Kendra Saunders was the Hawkgirl in the pre-Flashpoint DC universe. Shara Hall is the Hawkgirl in the Justice League cartoon, and she's also been Hawkwoman in previous DC incarnations at different points in the DC universe as well. So how can they exist at the same time? Because usually they're reincarnations of each other. Because you remember that the Hawkman and Hawkgirl, Hawkman and Hawkgirl, Carter Hall and Shara Hall, traditionally in DC lore, they were constantly being killed and reincarnated generation after generation after generation, and with the idea of ultimately killing their original killer, Hathset, back in Egypt, who was also reincarnated generation after generation after generation. Well, that whole mythology's now been changed with DC Rebirth. We have a new origin for Hawkman in the pages of Hawkman, which you can read in my reviews on that. But in any event, the reincarnation aspect of the Hawk mythology it's still intact, but it's confused now. Now there's a wrench thrown in the mix, because how can Shara Hall and Kendra Saunders exist in the same space-time? What's going on? There's some confusion there. But Kendra meets Shara Hall, and they ask Shara Hall, who's on Thanagar Prime, questions, but Shara Hall insists that she doesn't have any of the answers to what they're asked. They ask her questions about the Source Wall, about the Kendra's wings, and about even Martian Manhunter even wants to know, of course, about one of his elders. One of the elder Martians is on, he believes maybe was on Thanagar Prime. Shara Hall tells him that the elder is died, and that they just can't be helped. And so really it seemed like a useless journey, but as the issue progresses, it's quite clear that that's not the case. Shara Hall is hiding something, and not only is Shara Hall hiding something, but in fact the elder, the Martian Manhunter's elder Martian, is still alive and is being held captive. And Kendra, in a moment when her and Shara actually touch, they sort of seem to have sort of a psychic connection a little bit, and Kendra, unbeknownst to Shara somehow, sort of reads Shara Hall's mind and discovers that Shara knows a lot more than she let on. Now Kendra in this issue, and this is one of the frustrating aspects of the issue, Kendra sort of mentally connects with the help of Martian Manhunter to all the members of the Justice League, Green Lantern and Flash, who are also on the planet, and basically communicates to them, look, Shara Hall knows more than what's going on. There's some secrets being in the core of Thanagar Prime, in the planet's core. There's more secrets there, along with the elder Martian. We have to stay here. We have to get to the bottom of this. But as they're about to do that, they get attacked by the Savage Hawkman. Now, the Savage Hawkman is from the New 52 era. This is not to be confused with the Savage. This is not to be confused with Carter Hall, the Hawkman whose comic book is out right now, and whose origin was essentially revamped and revitalized by Robert Venditti in the pages of Hawkman, specifically issue 7. You still with me? I know I'm throwing a lot at you here. But in any event, a lot of questions are thrown about. The Justice League still doesn't have any answers. We, the readers, we know from past issues. We know the answers to some of the questions that the Justice League still doesn't have answers to. We know, for example, that the woman who's trapped in the totality, her name is Perpetua, and she has a way of connecting all the various 7 different forces. The Trinity doesn't know that. They're in the process of trying to discover that. Also, we know that we have some inkling that these 7 deadly forces can come together, and whoever controls them all controls the universe. Batman sort of suspects that, but he's trying to get to the bottom of it by getting into Will Payton's mind, and unfortunately doesn't do a very good job. He fails spectacularly, such so that when Batman rips the Jarro off of Starman in an attempt to essentially save Batman's psyche from going crazy, he sets off a chain reaction that, for whatever reason here, at the end, Starman's head's literally about to explode. And there's a final page here that's incredible. Starman says, no, he's about to explode. And then Clark, as Superman, for some reason says, his power levels just tripled in seconds. We need to evacuate the planet. He's going to explode. Now, what's crazy about this is, I gotta give... What makes him think that you have to evacuate the planet? I mean, Amanda Waller at the Suicide Squad, she makes people's head explode all the time. You don't have to evacuate the planet. Of course, it's not Starman. Apparently, Starman, the secrets, this energy sources that he has, this connection to the Source Wall, he's got some Source Wall energy contained in his mind, such that if Starman goes nova, it can destroy the entire planet. And so how are they going to evacuate the planet between this issue and issue 15? I've got no idea. I suspect something's going to help them out to prevent them from having to do that. But just crazy. A lot of craziness going on here. James Tynion IV does the words here. A lot of exposition here, but a lot of double speak. A lot of talking in riddles again, talking around the answers, talking around. No, I said before in a previous issue, on a previous review, and I stand by it, they really need the Flash to step up to the plate and to ask questions. The Justice League needs a character who just asks the questions that we readers are asking, like, what's going on? Could you say that in English, please? How do you know that? Like, what on earth makes Superman think that they have to evacuate the planet? How? I mean, you stare into his head with your X-ray vision. You can't possibly know the energy is going to destroy the planet, Superman. Give me a break. How does Batman know half of what he knows, and then doesn't bother telling the reader what we know about the rest of it? So the whole thing, this unfortunately really sort of compounds the mystery and the confusion here. So it's sort of like, I have to give it's a criticism of Scott Snyder, because while I love the ideas here, he thinks big. I love that. That's cool. But we shouldn't have to go 3 to 4 issues of confusion followed by an issue where everything's explained or re-explained what happened in the previous 3 issues. Why not just explain things clearly right up front? Like, for example, at the beginning here, right away we're very confused. Where did Starman come from? Why is suddenly Starman there? Why is suddenly Batman hooked up to him? Why is suddenly Superman ripping this off Starman? You could have just had a page synopsis explaining. You really, really desperately need a page of explanation explaining what came before, and explaining what they're doing with Starman, explaining what they're doing. It needs that it needs more exposition. Now, I know some of you are thinking, my God, it's too wordy as it is. You're right. It is too wordy. My point being is that it's the wrong kind of wordiness. It's just, let's be blunt here. It's just the writing. The writing has got to be better. You gotta eliminate elements of the story or something. You gotta tighten up this narrative. You gotta tighten the narrative up. Get rid of the discarding parts, and just focus on the actual important information. Because there's so much extraneous, useless information in here. Seeing Thanagar Prime was cool, but it didn't help us. It didn't move the narrative forward. Conversations between Kendra and Martian Manhunter, that was really cool. You know, Kendra even, I don't know, maybe Kendra and Martian Manhunter are going to get together. They wanted to dance. There's a lot of dialogue here that takes place, but again, the dialogue is them talking about how confused they are. Well, we already know they're confused. We're the reader and we're confused. We don't need the characters to continue to repeat themselves again and again and again, talking about how confused they are. We know. We're confused too. And the irony is, we're actually less confused than the reader, because we know more than the characters of the Justice League, which is kind of frustrating. So this is kind of like treading wheels. I feel like a gerbil in the cage going, nah, nah, nah. You know, it's like being trapped in a round room and somebody tells you to go piss in the corner. You know, huh? Anyways, I'm actually enjoying this in a pervert kind of crazy way. So I'm still sticking with it because I'm curious as hell as to what's going on and what the totality is all about. So kudos to Scott Snyder and James Tynion IV. You're working with a lot of moving parts here, so I'm still on board. Okay? I just kind of wish a little bit more clarity there, but it's all good. Whatever, we'll stick with it. Guys, tell me what you think. I'm going to give this issue, in terms of story, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. And for the art, I'm going to give it an 8.5. Check it out. Follow me on Twitter at Metropolis40. Hit the subscribe button. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and until next time, Comic Boom, out.